guys, Pirates Masquerade here, back with episode 2 of my movie reviews. Don't know what all that was about, but today's movie going up for review, and since there is one down on the ground, figured we might as well continue the Ghostbusters franchise, whatever you want to call it, with Ghostbusters 2! So let's get started, shall we? And that didn't stop. Alright, so movie development time. You guys know how this is going to go. Alright. After the success of the first film and the animated series, The Real Ghostbusters, awesome series, go check it out, Columbia Pictures pressured the producers to make a sequel. However, Dan Aykroyd, Harold Ramis, and Ivan Reitman were uncomfortable with this, as the original film was intended to be conclusive and they wished to work on other projects. Eventually they agreed and created a script. Annie Potts was also working on her TV series, Designing Women. At the same time, reportedly some of the cast and crew were ultimately dissatisfied with the film as well as its box office reception, as a lot of people were. But I, myself, liked it. But then again, this is not my thoughts. So. At first, there was a completely different script for Ghostbusters 2, which Bill Murray nicknamed The Last of the Ghostbusters, sounding like they're gonna die or something. Needless to say, the script was not used, and ultimately Dan and Harold wrote a new one. The 80s rap song All on Our Own by Bobby Brown featured it. On June 15th, 1989, while appearing on Later with Bob Costas, whatever, Harold Ramis revealed two other ideas for the sequel. One had the Ghostbusters as a very successful, based on a high-rise building, and now a worldwide company called Ghostbusters Incorporated. And the second idea had the sequel picking up literally from the end of the first movie. The Scoleri brothers are uncreditedly played by Tim Lawrence and Jim Fife in latex suits with animatronic masks. Tony and Nuzio? I don't know. And the Scoleri brothers are based on the real-life Scoleri brothers, who once robbed Harold Ramis' father, Nate Ramis, his store. Here's what Harold Ramis has to say about the two ghosts. The ghosts themselves were very loosely based on the fact that my father was a storekeeper who was once robbed and assaulted by the Scoleri brothers. That is what Harold Ramis did say, so. Some, however, had suggested that they might be based instead on Tony and Eddie Scoleri, who were convicted of robbing and killing a store owner in Philadelphia in the 1960s. None of this is known for certain. However, the design were created by the visual development artist Henry Mayo, was very, very credited, after extensive input from the producer Michael Gross. Alright. 5 years after the events of the first film, in the opening of the film, Ghostbusters is closed. They were sued by the city, county, and state of New York, and served a judicial restraining order preventing them from conducting paranormal investigations and eliminations sometime after Gozer was defeated. Dana Barrett is making her way with Oscar back to her apartment while talking to the superintendent, slime on the wheels of Oscar's stroller causes it to roll away, weaving around oncoming traffic and people. Dana chases after it, and eventually it stops in the middle of the intersection, right in front of a city bus. As for the Ghostbusters, they are undisservicedly out of business, having been sued by the city for property damage, and because of a restraining order, are barred from paranormal investigations. Ray Stantz and Winston Zedmore are regular entertainers at a children's birthday parties, although they are usually greeted with jeers and hostility from children. Dana visits Egon Spengler at his job, at his lab office, where he's conducted various experiments on human emotions, and explains to him what happened earlier and that she needs his help. He tells her he would like to get Ray involved, and Dana agrees, but tells him not to involve Peter Venkman, as they are not on good speaking terms. In the meantime, Peter Venkman is the host of The World of the Psychic, a television show that is unfortunately avoided by renowned physics, stemming from the belief that Peter is a fraud. Is that really that much of a shocker? It's Peter. After the show, he runs into the mayor and tries to talk to him, but is stopped by Jack Hardmere. Whatever. The guy's a dick. The mayor's assistant. He's still a dick, even though he's the mayor's assistant. He tells him to keep away from the mayor. See, he's a dick. They instantly dislike one another, and Peter reminds him of how bookworms like himself earned him and his fellow Ghostbusters their public status and reputation. Meanwhile, Dana is working at the Manhattan Museum of Art, restoring paintings and having to deal with the unwelcome advancements from her boss, Janzo Polha. I'm not going to try and attempt to pronounce that properly. While Ray and Egon are researching at Ray's occult books, Peter shows up and finds out about Dana's recent problem. The next day, the three visit her apartment, prompting an awkward reunion between her and Peter. Egon and Ray examine Oscar and his room. Wow, I'm having problems today. They then investigate the street when the stroller stopped. Where the stroller stopped. After checking the area and getting a strong reading, they drill a hole in the street. They discover a deep shaft, well, obviously, and conclude that one of them must descend it to obtain a better reading. Meanwhile, at the art museum, Janzo is touching up Vigo's painting. That sounds wrong. Yuck. When he receives a shock from it, the painting changes and Vigo orders him to locate a child, possessing him with the evil power. Evil power. I give up. Alright. Ray, meanwhile, is going down the street in the underground by wire. Is going down through the street in the underground by wire. Sorry. While the police show up and to tell them that the gas leak story they gave doesn't check out. Ray finds out that there is a river of slime flowing under New York City. After obtaining a sample, the slime starts attacking him, and he screams, begging them to pull him up. In a panic, Ray kicks a pipe, and the power to all of New York City goes out. Nice one, Ray. Janzo goes to Dana's apartment to see if he can get her baby, but is turned down. Obviously, the guy's a creeper and a stalker. He needs to just leave. The next day, Peter, Ray, and Egon are put on trial for violating their restraining order. They are poorly defended by Lois Tully and are found guilty. However, when Judge Stephen Wexler, there we go, begins angrily insulting the trio, the slime starts boiling, and after a final triad, the slime explodes. Oh yeah, it's like purplish pink, like a light purple pinkish color, something like that. The next day, Peter, Ray, and Egon are put on trial for violating the... I just read that. Yeah, I just read that. Sorry, guys. Okay. Releasing the ghosts of the two murders. I promise I'll get better at this next... I apologize, guys. Releasing the ghosts of two murderers the judge had executed. Wexler begs the Ghostbusters to do something, dismissing the charges and reciting the restraining order. Taking care of just removing the restraining order. They successfully capture the two ghosts. They reopen their business of an investigation of the paranormal. During this, Ray and Egon find the slime all over the city. The Ghostbusters had started researching and experimenting on what Peter called mood slime. Okay. It was shown that the slime reacts to threats and verbal abuse. However, it also reacts to singing, as it did a toast. It did a toast with a toaster. Okay? I'm going to say that there's a typo here. As they did a test with a toaster, there we go, where it would dance to the music. Peter then goes to the Museum of Art to visit Dana, and while there, Dana tells him about how it feels like the painting is watching her. Which also, they together notice Janzo, whatever his name is. I don't care what his name is. Janzo is talking to the painting. Crazy! Cuckoo! Cuckoo! Later that night, while preparing Oscar to take a bath, the bathtub is filled with pink slime. Attacks. Wow. Crazy, crazy slime. She runs with Oscar and goes to Peter's apartment, and after telling Peter what happened, Peter calls Ray and Egon at the firehouse, and they agree to go to Dana's apartment. Egon also shows him history on Vigo, and they also decided to go look at that painting the next day as well. The next day they head on to the art museum, and against Janzo's wishes, photograph and study the Vigo painting. Later, Peter comes home to find Dana cleaning his apartment. He asks her out on a night on the town, and she says yes. Meanwhile, after closing the firehouse for the day, Lois asks Janine out for a bite to eat. She says that she can't, as she is babysitting Oscar for Peter. However, she invited him to come over at 8 p.m. He says yes. Meanwhile, Egon and Ray are looking over the pictures using the spectral analyzer, as they notice that not only is a living presence, but the river of slime after that, the whole room caught on fire. But Winston came in and extinguished the fire. Egon, Ray, and Winston met up with Peter and Dana and asked him to join them as they go down in the sewers to look for the slime. Peter says no, so the three go down there While down there, they see impaled heads and a ghost train, which goes through Winston. Finally, they find the River of Slime. Egon and Ray talk about how the thriving underground rat population is increasing, much like the sponge migration from 1984, a sign of high paranormal activities to which Winston is dismayed. Oh, see the Twinkie. Referring to the Twinkie. Everything's about Twinkies these days. Twinkies, Twinkies, Twinkies. Yada yada yada, Twinkies, Twinkies, Twinkies. Winston tries to measure how deep it is when the slime pulls him in and he goes down river. Ray and Egon jump in after him. Meanwhile, Dana and Peter seem to be patching things up in their relationship at the restaurant, and Janine and Lois are enjoying the time together at Peter's apartment. Oh God, this is going to become disturbing. Later on, Ray, Winston, and Egon get out of the sewers, all covered in slime and then fighting. Egon tells them to remove the clothes they are wearing, and God! Oh, jeez. And then they lost their anger towards each other, meanwhile being left in their underclothes. It's like pajamas, apparently. They then look to find out that the River of Slime flows to the art museum. I wonder why. The Ghostbusters come into Armin's restaurant where Peter and Dana were enjoying dinner. Noting that they were in Noting that they were in their underwear and covered in slime. It's not really underwear because they were wearing like pajama, like the one piece underwear stuff. And covered in slime. The restaurant manager called the cops as the guys told Peter and Dana about the River of Slime and the events. The cops take them away, and Peter goes along with them. Meanwhile, Dana comes to Peter's place and sees how Oscar is doing. As the date is over, Janine and Lois were caught asleep on the couch together. However, Oscar is fine in bed. Meanwhile, the Ghostbusters meet the mayor at Gracie's mansion, and Jack Hardymayer is there, being a jerk. He's being a dick, just like usual, because he's a dick. Stuck dick. Anyway, the Ghostbusters try to convince the mayor that the negatively of the city is making a river of slime, and if people don't start being more positive, the whole city is going to blow with supernatural activity. Anyway, the mayor didn't believe them and says being miserable and treating people like dirt is every New Yorker's God-given right. Wow. God-given right. Sorry. After the mayor left, the Ghostbusters talked about going to the press with the story. Then Jack suggests to first tell the people downtown. What Jack didn't tell them was that the people downtown work for Parkview Psychiatrical Hospital, an insane asylum. He's a dick. I would have punched him. Meanwhile, Vigo is talking to Jangles. and a deal is struck that Vigo would be reborn as the baby for Dana, and Dana would be Janzo's wife. Yeah, right. Meanwhile, at Peter's apartment, Lois, Janine, and Dana are watching a movie when all of a sudden a window in the bedroom opens and Oscar walks out onto the building's ledge. Dana notices and sees the window up. She sees Oscar as a supernaturally powered Janzo takes Oscar. Dana leaves for the art museum while Lois looks for the guys. Louis looks for the guys. Not Lois, Louis. Dana gets to the museum, which, after entering the whole outside covers in slime. Inside, Dana tries to take back Oscar, while Janzo starts telling the plans Vigo has. After that, beneath the city, the slime raises, causing massive mayhem as the ghosts and monsters randomly pop up and terrorize citizens. The mayor, getting desperate, says to call the Ghostbusters, which at that point, Jack Hardemayer tells him that the Ghostbusters committed. What? Tells him that he had the Ghostbusters committed. The mayor then fires Jack and sends someone to get the Ghostbusters. Hallelujah! Finally, the mayor fires this dick. Finally! God. The guy needs to be put into an insane asylum himself. Not throw the Ghostbusters in as my voice goes all high-pitched. After that, Lois is with the Ghostbusters as they are leaving, and Ray is explaining that Vigo is going to take Oscar and become reborn in Oscar's body, and they need to stop it. Then, a few minutes later, the Ghostbusters get to the museum and try to blast open through the slime on the museum. But it is too strong. The boys then get an idea that they need a positive symbol to lift up the spirits of the people in the city. Then they get to the Statue of Liberty. And Ray and Winston spray down the inside with the slime blower, and Egon sets up the joystick controls to steer the statue. Then they start to play "Your Love Keeps Lifting Me Higher" over the speakers in the statue. The statue then starts walking and went through the bay. Meanwhile, back at the firehouse, Janine dresses up Louis in Egon's jumpsuit, and then he leaves on foot to help the guys. The Ghostbusters then were directed to the statue, directing the Statue of Liberty through New York, cheering up the whole entire town. They get back to the museum, now weakened, and inside, Dana runs and grabs up Oscar as the Ghostbusters come through the roof. The first thing they do as Janzo rants is hose him down. Why not just zap him, please? God. With the slime blowers. All of a sudden, a hose ties up Dana where Peter puts Oscar behind some stuff. I think it was like 2 tables put together, like folded together. Vigo reveals himself outside of the painting, walking in plain sight. Then Egon and Peter shoot at him, and Vigo stuns all 4 of them. Vigo then gets the baby, Oscar. Peter says a few comments which angers Vigo, and then he shocks all 4 of them again. Then the people start singing outside and are happy, which weakens Vigo as he goes back into the painting. While leaving Oscar behind, meanwhile, outside Louis shows up and starts shooting at the gelatinous slime shell. Inside, Vigo takes possession of Ray, and Winston uses the slime blower to drive Vigo out and back into the painting. And Egon and Peter blast him until he disappears for good. Peter and Dana kiss while Ray wakes up and is very, very happy. Ray's always happy. Ray then pulls up a very cheerful Janzo and they share the love. Oh, Lord. Then all four Ghostbusters, Dana, Oscar, and Janzo, look at the painting that appears of the four Ghostbusters and a baby. And a baby! Then they leave the museum. Outside, the city cheers them on with Changing Jack among the chorus. With a changing Jack, with a changed Jack among the chorus. The guy's still a dick, no matter what. So, yeah. Alright guys, now it's your turn. Please leave your comments, please leave your thoughts on Ghostbusters 2, not 3, 2, in the comments below, or you can leave me a voicemail saying your thoughts at 636-486-9976. Once again, that number is area code 636-486-9976. I look forward to hearing all of your thoughts on the Ghostbuster movie and Ghostbusters 2, any other movies I review in the future or the future past, whatever. I don't know. But so, till next time, till the next movie review, till the next review, till the next series review, I'm Pirates Masquerade saying later days. Have a great day. See you guys.